Chapter 21 of Puss in Boots, Jr. and Tom Thumb. Pumpkin House. A little cock sparrow sat on a green tree, and he chirruped, so merry was he. A naughty boy came with his wee bow and arrow, determined to shoot this little cock sparrow. "Before he shoots," Puss whispered to Tom Thumb, "I'll warn the little cock sparrow." But when the boy had fitted an arrow to his bow, he looked up and said, "This little cock sparrow shall make me a stew, and his giblets shall make me a little pie too." "Oh, no," said the sparrow, "I won't make a stew," and he flapped his wings and away he flew. After that, Puss walked off down the road with Tom Thumb on his shoulder, and by they came to a cornfield, where in and out among the rows of corn gleamed the big yellow pumpkins, and right there in the corner of the old snake fence stood little Peter Pumpkin Eater with a great big knife in his hand. In a few minutes he had made a fine little house out of a pumpkin, but when he came to make the chimney, it was not such an easy matter. At last Puss Jr. suggested that he cut out little bricks from the inside of the pumpkin and build a regular chimney. This was indeed a mighty good suggestion, and before long the chimney was finished. "It's a fine house," said Puss. "You ought to be very proud of it." "Well, I am," admitted Peter, "and as long as Mrs. Peter likes it, I am more than contented. Up to this time, you know, I haven't been able to keep her in any house." "I'll promise to live in this one," cried little Mrs. Peter, throwing her arms about his neck. "You've worked hard, and Mrs. Peter will always remember that." Pretty soon Puss and Tom Thumb shook hands with Peter and Mrs. Peter Pumpkin Eater, and again started off on their journey of adventure. "Once more, dear little comrade," cried Puss Jr., "we are upon the broad highway. Let us be prepared for our next adventure." "I'm ready," cried little Tom Thumb, poking his head out of Puss Jr.'s pocket. "Let come what will, we have stout hearts and courage still." Just as he finished speaking, the report of a gun came down the breeze. "What's that? Did they shoot at us?" asked Tom Thumb from inside Puss Jr.'s pocket. But before Puss could reply, a little man appeared in the meadow close by. There was a little man, and he had a little gun, and his bullets were made of lead. He went to the brook and saw a little duck, and shot it right through the head. "That was a very good shot," cried Puss. "Do you think so?" asked the little man. "Perhaps it was." And he leaned over and picked up the duck. And after that he carried it home to his old wife Joan, and bade her a fire to make, to roast the little duck he had shot in the brook, and he'd go and fetch the drake. "I'm going to tell the drake to look out for him," said Puss Jr. End of chapter 21. Recording by Diane Castillo.